Johnny and Justin were two simple Imagineers at Disneyland until they dared to ask the question,
"Hey Justin, is Disney diverse?"
Well, Johnny, I'm not.
Oh no, we buried the mouse!
Stormtroopers, run!
Holy crap, it's a gaggle of cookies!
Now, from undisclosed locations within the Disney park, Johnny and Justin record a podcast where they seek to answer the question, is the Disney catalog diverse?
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Disney+Diversity. I'm Johnny.
And I'm Justin.
And you know you're here at Disney+Diversity, where we review Disney catalog to see how diverse and inclusive actually it is. And today, we got a very special surprise for you. Today we'll be reviewing, you see what Justin's wearing, so you might know. Today we're reviewing, tell him, Justin.
Shang Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings.
Woo! Super excited for it. It's long overdue, y'all. Sorry, we were on hiatus when it came out. Otherwise, we would have been like all over it, talking about it and everything like that, because this is a movie that's legitimately right up our alley.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's one of those things too, where it's like we've been covering a decent amount of the Marvel stuff. Maybe not every Marvel thing out there, but we've been covering a decent amount of Marvel stuff, especially when the Marvel stuff we feel addresses our kind of message of conversation that we want to do for our show.
Exactly, so, like Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yeah, like Falcon and Winter Soldier, or when we talked a little bit about female representation of WandaVision and Black.
Trash.
But they were worth discussing. Though. So that's
totally worth discussing. Trash, but totally worth discussing.
Totally worth discussing. So
that Black Widow film.
I understand. Yeah, no, you had a weird whooping cough when that happened. I just don't know if you good.
I need a lozenge. I think I need a lozenge. I need a halt.
Maybe like get a tea.
Trash.
Like get a tight and a chai tea. Maybe that'll clear that up.
Or a cheat tea. A cheat tea.
No. Oh my goodness. Anyway, so yes, we will be talking about Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, and this is the reason to kind of bring up this movie is I feel like, especially when we did our Asia Pacific Heritage Month back in May, this was the movie that we were kind of like putting in our head was when we were talking about, Mulan and Bao and etc. And there is actually one specific movie that we covered that month that I hilariously realized there is a connection to Shang-Chi, and I will be bringing it up in a little bit. Maybe you realize what it is.
Yeah, I know what it is.
Yeah. So, but yeah, like. To kind of go into that, when we talked about all those movies in the Asian American Heritage Month in May, part of the reason that me and Johnny kept talking after we recorded, so I'm like really curious to see what the conversation would be when Shang-Chi comes out.
Woo!
Thank you, Blackwing.
What's up, BW?
Our
when
boy.
There's trouble, just call BW. Blackwing.
Shout out to Blackwing, who's been following us and checking out our stuff since we were doing it back in the day. Over on THS, and I've noticed it, and now he's streaming too, talking about Super Sentai and Power Rangers and such. So good on you, dude.
I know he's out here trying to take our jobs. I see you, Blackwing. I see you trying to take my job. No, I'm joking.
Just like kind of grab it in there, huh?
No, but seriously though, proud to be fan, because that's the whole thing we always say as creators ourselves, is that like if you're a fan of it and you like it, then go do it. Yeah, that's the thing. Have fun with it. So, Blackwing, we're happy for you living the dream, and welcome to the circle.
He streams for another website called Luminarity. So, and he's talking about Super Sentai and Power Rangers there. And again, dude, it's really cool because like you were watching us, you were always commenting and etc. So they have you here. Thanks, dude, and thanks for following us to our current venture, which is of course Disney+Diversity.
Yeah, so thank you for following. But enough of that free promo. That's enough of that free promo you get there, unless you over shipping some dimes in. I'm sure. But Jesse, you were saying about Islander Month, and I'm coming full circle to Shang-Chi.
Yeah, and yeah, like this is, and then right now this is one of those cases where like, one of the movies we didn't cover, I want to point out, was the 2020 remake of Mulan. You know, and main reason we didn't want to cover it
Trash.
that
Trash. Trash. Excuse me. Oh my gosh. Well, where are
you
my
really need
heart?
to get that
Big
checked.
quill. I
I
know.
am
I don't know.
I
It
am
comes at the
getting
most random time.
I am like concerned. I'm concerned. You need
I don't know what
yeah.
triggers it. I don't know what triggers it. Oh, so terrible.
I'm just
Sorry, Justin. What were you
I'm
saying? I'm sorry.
extremely concerned about that, my friend.
I'm sorry. What were you saying?
No, so yeah, basically when that movie, listen, that movie
What
wasn't
movie?
particularly. I'm afraid for. I wanted the conversation to keep going, so I'm not going to mention it anymore.
Oh,
So
okay.
Fulcrum Mulan 2020 is an explanation in of itself. Thank you. You're correct. Again, this is why I didn't want to mention it.
Sorry. Oh, sorry.
So
Good. Now I'm good.
good. You should get a warm tea, something clear
Chi
the
tea.
throat. Chi tea. Anyway, so knowing that movie and how I definitely felt that film failed at what it was trying to do. I was curious
in so many ways.
I was curious and trying to be hopeful about Shang-Chi,
Yeah, and I guess give credit. I'm happy about Shang-Chi because back when we were criticizing, when we criticized Disney because when they put out those two Asian American films, Mulan and Ray and the Last Dragon, it was with a price tag versus Soul, which was released for free. So it was like, dude, so why are you doing this? Why are you trying to profit off the Asian American community of this with these two films that should be just released, especially like during the time of the pandemic? So I will say that it is nice that Shang-Chi is available like now on Disney+. It came out pretty quickly. Furthermore, the fact it was available at theaters to get that full cinematic experience is like kind of dope. So kind of jumping into it, like, so how was your movie going experience when you knew to go see it?
I actually did my friend rented out a theater. Only invited 15 of us, and obviously made sure we were all vaccinated and COVID free before we went to the screening. So it was a really nice kind of intimate way of watching the movie for the first time. And it was a good, it was a fun experience just to kind of, because it's probably a lot of theirs first time at a movie theater since everything happened. I will admit this is probably the fourth movie I saw in the theater. I've been feeling personally.
We know, Justin. We know, Justin. You're irresponsible. We keep going.
Yeah, no, Johnny, don't do that. Don't do that, dude. Please don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Please don't do that. No, I wear a mask when I'm watching the theaters. I tend to not go to very crowded screenings. But I personally been feeling fairly confident and comfortable to go to the movies. But that's me. I'm not pushing out anyone else. If you're still not comfortable, please, I don't want you to go if you don't feel like you're ready. But
exactly. Take your time.
Take your time. But so when we got to see the film with my friends, that was a really good way, and I wanted to see it with my friends. So that was a fun experience to watch. How about you, Johnny?
It's terrible. It was a terrible experience. Well, the thing about this was that, like, for me, I've been going to the movies, but I wait. So the thing about this is, if a movie drops like on a Friday, I wait till that following Thursday, maybe a week and a half later, because I want to give it time so that way I'm not in a crowded theater. Because like you, I want to be cautious. Because the thing about this, when we go to these theaters now, everybody wearing that mask throughout the whole movie. Right. The moment they sit down, they see she's like, hardcore, hot dog, soda, you put the mask back on? No. And it's just done. It's a done deal. And so the thing about this is that I want to go in a smaller theater so that way I know I'm spread out. So that's what I was kind of waiting for. And it was weird. It was dope. Like, because the movie itself, which we want to get into, but it was kind of disappointing because like the movie going experience that you want for a Marvel movie was kind of robbed from me a little bit. Because when you think about like Avengers and like Black Panther and like so many other films, there's those moments where, like, the whole audience claps because you're getting this payoff you've been waiting for. But we kind of missed out on that with Shang-Chi because of the pandemic. Furthermore, which I'm really disappointed by, is like, see what the Asian American community would have done with this. Because when we look at Black Panther, oh, bro, we turned out like royalty that we are, and we came through tripping. So this was coming through. I was like, I'm waiting for the costumes. I want to see about the jokes on Twitter. It was about to be trending. We didn't get that, and that's sadly mainly because of the pandemic. Not a reflection of the movie itself, but because of the pandemic, the times we live in. So we got responsible. But here's the thing: though, hopefully Disney keeps making Shang-Chi films. Hopefully by the time we get to Shang-Chi 2, hopefully by then, called 12 rings, maybe 14. Who knows? He gets 2 more.
Who knows how many rings are out there?
Exactly. But the thing about it is, hopefully by the time we get there, we can see that played out properly. So fingers crossed.
Right. Yeah. Same. And you're right. It is. I will admit that is a bit of a bummer to, um, due to the situation. Yeah, I wanted that sort of community. I wanted that camaraderie. I wanted that we're all doing this. The same that Black Panther was, which was an emotional and powerful experience watching and seeing the growth of that movie with the audience, and seeing how it was embraced by not just Black folks, but all folks who just love the characters and love the movie. So I was hoping something like that. And yeah, the reality is we couldn't get everything like that because of the pandemic. That being said, it killed at the box office, and it did do really, really well. And it is extremely successful. So while we didn't get it the same way, we still got a variation of it that did feel like us, like that folks came to see and support, and people went again, and people went again, even during a pandemic. The film did really well week after week, and it owned the box office in September. And granted, we curbed the change in expectations because it's a pandemic and what's the choices, but people were ready to see that film and wanting to see that film, and they told their friends go see that film, and then they watched it again. So
and to give some numbers, the budget was somewhere between 150 to 200 million, and the movie grossed overall at the box office 430 million. So for anybody knows, that's pretty much close to $500 million. And the big thing about it is, though, it doubled its budget, which you're supposed to be doing. If you make back the budget or you double the budget, you'll see a successful film. Fingers crossed, you should get another one. So props to Shang Chi for holding it down.
Yeah, no, for sure. If anything, Shang Chi was one of the films that made people feel confident that movies are going to be fine. People were going to go out to the theater and watch it properly. So we'll see how what happens after that. But Shang-Chi was part of the upswing for movie theater experience. I think October it held its ground, and
okay, Godzilla versus King Kong was part of that irresponsible experience. Because I remember people going to see Godzilla versus King Kong. There was like no state of precautions. People were just like, I want to go see a movie. So yeah, so Shang-Chi came in right at that sweet spot where we figured out how to be safe and do this.
Right, 100%.
We had vaccines at that point.
Yeah, no. Now we're rolling. Now we're on boosters.
Booster gang. Hashtag booster gold, y'all.
Yeah, I'm boosted. So, so Johnny, I got plenty to say. I've been saying a lot about this movie since it came out. But how about you? What overall, what did you think when, what was your initial thoughts? So let's just kind of get into that before we really dive in.
Oh Jesus. Okay, so this is a safe space. This is Disney+Diversity.
I know.
It's a safe space. Be here.
Right. Okay.
You don't judge anybody. Producer Stacy judges people, but we don't judge people.
It's really weird.
That's just what she does.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, though. So when it comes down to it, though, I'm a Shang-Chi fan. Like, Shang-Chi is like one of my favorite characters. And I remember when I first got introduced to the character, it was in the Captain America comic.
Right.
Him and Captain America went undercover, like on some like island, whatever. The villains were having a conference, and all the villains got their like weapons confiscated. And this wasn't just like regular villains, just like so the big ones, like you got Rhino, you got all these dudes like super strong, kill it 100 times, blah blah. All these guys on the island. So Cap and Shang-Chi go undercover, like investigating all the stuff and everything like that. And at one point, Cap has to go after like the main bad guy. He leaves Shang-Chi by himself to face off against all the villains. It's like, damn, Cap, racist much? Go throw the yellow man to this, like for real though? Okay, you messed up, Cap. But what ends up happening though is Shang-Chi goes to work. And you're like, wait, how is he doing this? Because he's the most fucking master of kung fu. He's like just dishing out hands. And it's like, he's like taking out gifts super stronger than him. I was like, dude, this dude is legit. Why don't we get more Shang-Chi comics? And so the thing about this, I was like huge fan of the character, but that was kind of like his like history from then on out, is that he would always show up in people's comics like in a supporting role and like a supporting role and whatnot. His own comics he would try to do, but it wouldn't just hit with like the fan base. But they always used him. And like Brian Michael Bendis did like a dope job. Back when he did his New Avengers run, there's this cool moment where it's like Iron Fist is on the team and like they're like training and everything like that. And Shang-Chi shows up and Iron Fist is like, oh, that's Shang-Chi right there. And like, yeah, but you're the Iron Fist too. He is the master of Kung Fu. Master.
Yeah.
It was almost like it was some Last Dragon type stuff. The master, show nothing, Shang-Chi. Exactly. Who's the baddest? Shang-Chi. Who's the prettiest? Shang-Chi. Who's parking cars? Shang-Chi. We'll get to that later. So going into this movie, like I was really excited for it, and I'll be for real. First half of this movie, I was like, this is amazing. We got Sean. Give him the hands. Give him all the hands in the world. The plot line, amazing. Acting, amazing. Everything was on point. Supporting actors, villain storyline, we're going to get into that. All phenomenal. My one critique that just didn't get me excited for is the fact that we had spoilers. We're getting to is that they give the homie superpowers. That was the only thing I didn't like. And I've heard a lot of people like talk about it since it came out, saying that it was like, oh, because they won't have him stay on the same grounds as these people, whatever. But I always thought the coolest thing about Sean was that he was just kind of like, it's kind of like the reason why you admire Michael Jordan. You get to a superhuman level because of training, discipline, and so forth and whatnot, and still you don't need all the acclimates. It's like he was on the same level as like a Captain America and a Black Panther, just by pure physical determination and training and whatnot. And he's at this master level, which like brings all these things with it. And plus Kung Fu and all the spirituality stuff that comes in, it's like this cool concept. So that was my only thing. But other than that though, I'm just happy the film got made, because the thing about this was that we talk about representation a lot on the show. And the thing about this was that we want to see representation of people of color. We want to see them in the driver's seat. So that was the dope thing about this film, is that we got a lot of people of color in the driver's seats making this film. Yeah. And the cool thing about this was that because we get this movie, guess what? We can get other films later on, and we can still possibly get that Shang-Chi where he doesn't have powers and he's just giving the hands out the whole film. So how about you? What do you think?
Yay! Thanks, Comic Banter, following us. Comic Banter.
Thank you, Comic Banter. What up, dope? Thank you, Comic Banter.
Ken Rollo.
Thank you for enjoying our banter.
You're in the middle of us bantering. Comics Banter, also my buddy Ken Rollo. Ken's been again another amazing supporter throughout for my other shows and podcasts, and he's been watching our stuff too. And thank you, dude. Much respect. Thank you for following us proper on the official channel. So moving that aside, thank you again for the like and for the follow.
Thank you. Appreciate you, Ken.
But so for me, expectations were pretty high, especially because of the fact that like I had a couple friends who I met up, and journalists, they already saw the film 2 weeks before me. And...
Wait, but Justin, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but weren't you excited for this movie because you're pretty much the reason it got made?
Johnny, I don't know what you're talking about.
So let's go back in time.
Okay.
Back in time to this social media platform called Twtich.
Okay.
And so Justin Quizon right here happened to send out a very interesting tweet where he said, you know what? Insert actor here should play Shang-Chi, and they should make a movie.
No, hold on.
Go ahead.
That's not actually what happened.
Okay, explain. This is your story. Right. Explain.
Okay, I'll explain. On Twitter. Okay, so it's 2017.
2017.
Okay. 2017.
Pre-pandemic.
Way pre.
Our headphones still have cords. Keep going.
Yeah, true. 1 year before Black Panther comes out. Right now, they've already announced filming, casting. We've seen, I think, if anything, we've seen some early photos, and we were all just excited about Black Panther. We were like, oh my god, they're gonna do it. It looks like they're doing all the right things. Oh my gosh, everyone was feeling good about Black Panther. And so on Twitter, I just sort of wrote, sometimes Twitter is the home of just random thoughts. You know what I mean? So on Twitter, I just wrote a random thought, and I tagged Marvel for funsies because they're never gonna read it. And on Twitter,
you say that now.
On Twitter, I wrote, "Hey Marvel, actually, you know what? I think I just was reminded about the tweet, so I looked at it again today. Okay, so I wrote on Twitter, okay, Marvel Studios, here's a challenge: give Shang-Chi the Black Panther treatment. And then I further wrote, get an Asian or Asian Am writer director, fill the cast with Asian Am actors, the crew with Asian Am actors, and with Asian Am folks, and make it big and make it cool. And so
question, Justin. Question.
Yeah.
I like that tweet, of course. Who else liked and maybe comment on that tweet, Justin? So, Anybody we know?
So here's the thing. Okay. I'll tell you a couple.
BTS?
No, BTS. I wish, because butter. But
Dynamite. Keep going.
Yeah. But One was like
Mic drop.
Nerds of Color was that one Twitter account that I saw liking it, and I went, oh cool,
Mhm.
Nerds of Color, nerds. I know Nerds of Color. But then
Represent.
there was an actor who liked this tweet,
Who,
and
Justin? Wesley Snipes?
here's the funny thing: I didn't know who this was in 2017.
Oh,
You know, the
I
profile
knew
picture.
it was.
The profile picture was a very, you know, like good-looking Asian guy. He had a goatee in the picture.
Was it
No,
Daryl?
no, not
Daryl J. Delphin?
I didn't know Daryl back then either. I don't think Daryl even had. I don't know if Daryl would ever want to disgrace his face with facial hair. So, but yeah, like it was this Asian actor. I didn't know who he was, and then I was curious, like, oh, who's this? And so I clicked on his account, and Canadian actor is what he said. Is what it said in his bio, and you know, I've never heard of him. It's one of those cases where like, but all this person said was like, and then this person replied to my tweet saying, "Preach, bro," and I'm like, sweet, you get what I'm doing, you get what I'm saying. This guy gets my vibe. And you know, I didn't know who he was, and I just figured, you know, I'm friends with so many, you know, upcoming very talented Asian actors, and they follow me on Twitter, or they know me on Twitter, or because I'm friends.
What up, big homie Jezzer?
Yeah. Or my buddy Earl Balon, you know, voice of Jonah, and subsequent friends, etc. So I saw this dude's account and just went, cool, good dude. You're an actor. Good luck to you, man. If you know, if you haven't quite picked up the vibe of what we're saying, that guy was Simu in 2017. 2 years before he got cast in the title role. And I completely forgot about that Twitter exchange. I completely forgot about it until he got cast. And then in early 2020, before everything hit the shitter, you know, someone found that tweet and was like, wow, that's so wild that he said that and you said that, because it happened. And went, what are you talking about? And I clicked on what he was, you know, clicked on the old tweet and went, oh my God. They not only did Marvel actually do what I said, not only did Marvel actually did my challenge, they had an Asian American director, Asian American crew writing it and being involved in the production of the film. That guy who said preach bro got cast in the lead. And yeah, Fulcrum points out this was a year after Kim's Convenience premiered in Canada. We didn't have it here, so we didn't get Kim's Convenience here yet. So this was a little bit before it blew up on Netflix
and everything. Yeah.
So but no, it's this weird thing where I went, oh my God, that's so wild that like all of that happened. And yeah, I cheekily wrote on Twitter like, I guess you should all thank me. And I've told that story every couple of months. I'll tell that story again or post on social media, just especially when the movie was coming out, and just kind of be like, isn't that freaking wild? You know, it just gets wild. Like that. What the internet's a strange place, you know. And
the most wild part is if you were following Justin September when it came out, he kept tweeting Simu saying, "Yo, where my check at? Yo, where my check at? Yo, where my check at?"
No, dude, where? Why you? Yo, hire me.
There it is.
What I should. I am an associate producer of a film called Lumpia with a Vengeance. I have film experience, and no, I
just like Sprite.
I mean, who don't?
No.
Who don't like Sprite? But no, it's so weird, and like a lot of folks joked around me, going like, oh man, like, you know, like thank you for giving me Shang-Chi. And my thing is like, I should have manifest higher.
Okay.
I should have manifest higher and said,
after that tweet,
hire Justin Keyson to write it. You know?
And directed.
But if you just want to hire me as a writer, that's good too. But yeah, that was so funny. So I thought they did good. I have notes, of course, but I feel that when I walked out of that theater, I got what I wanted, you know, especially because, like I said, like before all of that, I had friends who got to see the film early. They were gushing about it. They loved it. They were like, we can't wait for you to see it yourself. And so I was like, oh man, I'm really, God, what if I'm that guy who didn't get it? and I walked out. I went, okay, I liked it. I liked it a lot. I have my issues here and there, but at the end of the day, I'm very happy with it. And the more I watch it, the more I grow to kind of love it more and more for my personal reasons. And so I was fairly happy with it. I have my, like I said, I have my criticisms in terms of writing and even
Same.
in terms of maybe even proper discussions of the Asian representation that they were talking about.
Okay, same.
So
Some characterization, but I think it's a good way as any, because we're about halfway through. So let's go ahead and jump into it real quick.
Yeah, of course. So here's the thing I will say. Going into the plot of the film, you said like the first half of the movie, plot wise, is pretty strong, and I think everyone kind of agrees. The first half of the movie is some of the strongest in the film.
For sure. But let's talk about the beast though. So how does it open up?
And the film opens up in the freaking past, and dude, there is something incredibly awesome hearing Mandarin speak in like a major Hollywood movie in this really cool opening sequence, and like embracing this, like, oh, we're doing a martial arts movie, we're doing a Hong Kong martial arts movie. It feels like, I know I'm gonna hold off on talking about Tony Leung till later because I'm gonna gush about Tony Leung, but it was very, very cool to see this really exciting opening sequence, and then the way you realize how the story is being unfolded through the narrative, when you realize it's actually this is how the story is being told, this is how the backstory is being told. I thought that was wonderfully elegant, really very, very nice, really well done. The fight scene between Lee and Wenwu in the beginning, I think is gorgeous, and I think did the thing that I was concerned about before I saw the film, which was martial art movies. A writer named Nancy Yuen who's written a book, and one of my favorite one of my favorite people online who talks about Asian representation. She brought up a really good point about like what her hopes of Shang Chi, and that like it can't just be fighting. Martial arts sequences. If you watch a Hong Kong martial arts film, it just can't be punching and kicking. Even if it's well choreographed, it tells a story. Martial art, a fight scene can tell a story. A fight scene can inform character. A fight scene could explain a relationship. And when I saw this fight scene between Wenwu and Lee, I knew we were going to be fine because it did that.
No, I would also say add on to it is that the reason why this can't be a fighting, because you have the need, like, I look at that as not only that this fight scenes need to convey like an emotional element to it, which they totally did, but you need those other story structures and things as well, because again, this movie's doing a lot of representation work here. It's like with Black Panther, is you like, we gonna do a Black Panther film, and all he gonna do is play basketball and eat fried chicken. They were like, okay, this is bad, y'all can't be doing this. No. But the thing about Izzo is that same thing with like Asian Americans. The thing about Izzo was like, again, with the Asian American representation in cinema, we've seen kung fu films.
Right.
That is on lock. You've been represented in that category. But when it comes to other dramatic roles, like other things on those lines, we don't see that representation in those areas. So that's why it's critically important that, yeah, you gotta do that kung fu. You gotta pay respect to that, but you gotta give all these other dramatic elements throughout the film as well. Because again, to build these actors to show that they're versatile, they can do other worlds, because that's what we want to see. We want to see them in other roles, not just kung fu films all the time.
Right. And there's something else too I want to bring up. Woo! Kenergy Prime.
Woo!
Followed
Kenergy
us.
Prime. Woo!
Woo! Thank you, Kenergy Prime. Appreciate that follow.
Kenergy Prime, third cousin of Optimus Prime. Good people, though. Good people.
I would like to continue the review, please. All right, now, so I will say, I will say something else about the opening. One of the things that I feel, you're talking about, like, not just martial art movies, is that, like, talking about that, right? Part of the thing I remember talking about, this and Snake Eyes, the movie that came out in June with Henry Golding, which was also
Trash.
I was just gonna say that. Now,
Trash.
I want to point that out. Like, here's the thing: is that, like, one of the things where I was talking about with some friends was that, like, is it a problem that we're getting these big Hollywood movies, but we're also having them just be in martial art movies? And my point of view is, while I understand that's a concern, there is another thing that I want to address, which is because of our self-consciousness about how we feel about using martial arts to represent us, we started becoming averse to using it or talking about it. Like, no, we're not just that. And hey, rightfully so, right? Because like any asshole can, and I've seen this happen, where an asshole can just walk by us and go, whoa, like that, like saying, like he thinks saying hi. That's happened to me.
I'm sorry, Justin.
Yeah, I kid you not. That's happened to me, where I'm like, me and my buddies just hanging out, well, downtown, and then a random dude will just kind of be like, oh wow, what up, y'all? And we're like, hey, screw off, and
kick him in the nuts.
Kick him in the nuts, not in a martial arts way, just a straightforward. And so we kind of felt like it was so silly. In a way, it felt like we were being ashamed for having it. And the thing is, how I look at terrible movies like Mortal Kombat that came out this year, I'm beating it to the whooping cough, and Shang and
for Mortal Kombat, first 15 minutes you win an Oscar. First 15 minutes.
I know. You watch our other review on Mortal Kombat, you can see why we don't like it.
But everything after that, trash.
And Snake Eyes is that like
except for Kano, he was amazing.
And then actually, I'm gonna say right now, I hated Kano. Sorry, John.
I love Kano. That man had jokes.
Different show.
That man had jokes. We'll continue.
But okay, so with those two movies and Shang-Chi, my feeling was, we were pushed by the media and other folks to be ashamed of using martial arts in our stories, that we didn't want to use it anymore. And now I feel like a part of it is we're kind of taking it back and saying, no, this is ours. This belongs to us. This is something we should be proud of. As a Filipino, our martial arts is like Eskrima and Kali, and it's been used in so many movies here in the States, in America, but not by Filipino actors or characters. Like Matt Damon uses Eskrima in the Bourne Identity movies, and that's our best representation is Matt Damon, and it's not good. So it is one of those things where it's like, pardon me, I'm viewing it as we're taking it back and saying, this is ours. This is our culture. We are proud of it. And you're not going to shame us into thinking this isn't part of who we are anymore.
No, I agree with you. And I think the thing about it is, what this kind of reminds me of is the 1990s when Boys in the Hood and Menace to Society came out. It was like during that time period, we started getting a lot of gangster black films like New Jack City and a bunch of other ones. And so the thing about it is, it became this whole story of like, let's tell hood stories involving drugs and guns and whatnot and blah, blah, blah. But the thing about it was, though, it's kind of torn because once we started doing that and we got all these actors who were exposed to the world, and started getting more work or whatever, it was like, okay, you know what? We're more than just that, though.
Right.
That is a part of our story. But you have these other things. And so when you get during this time period, you almost get this like black renaissance of cinema, because we get The Brothers, we get Girlfriends, we get Soul Food, we get so many dope movies. White Man Can't Jump. You can't, Woody, you can't. But the thing about this though is that we get all those dope films. And so in a way, it's like you kind of want to like have those stories told. And that could be the jumping off point to more stories. You don't want to stay in that one lane, though. That's the thing. And the difference of it too is because, like with those hood films, those are low-key stories of struggle and plight that still represent our community and whatnot, and represent what we go through. But at the same time, though, we want to celebrate things.
Right.
When I look at martial arts, it's a little bit different, because with martial arts, that's some dope ass stuff. Those are things that, again, it takes discipline, it takes years to learn. That again is a celebration, it's beautiful and all these different things like that. It's been passed down for thousands of years. It's like, you know what? That's something that should be celebrated on a regular basis because it's such a rich part of the history. Again, don't stay in that lane. Don't put people in this box. Don't look at different actors and be like, you can only do kung fu films. Again, create other films, a place for them to act in and tell stories, but just don't keep them in that one lane. Like Kim's Convenience is a great example of that. Kim Convenience is a story about a family running a convenience store shop that tells all this rich narrative. But again, you don't see anybody like doing any kicks or flips or anything like that.
No, it's a family show,
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, it's a family show, and it addresses family problems that everyone deals with. And I think the thing with going into what you're just saying, Johnny, with Shang-Chi, yes, there is a heavy martial arts. Obviously, it's a martial arts action film, etc. We're gonna get that, but the biggest difference between, say, a Jackie Chan film or a Jet Li movie is that this is about someone who grew up in the States, in America. And that's a very different experience. When people watch, like, say, a Jackie Chan film from Hong Kong, even, or even Rush Hour, he's a foreigner who comes to the West, or in Shanghai Noon's case, quite literally in the West. And he's a foreigner who's comfortable in the country he came from, but he has to adjust to being here. That's not Shang-Chi's story. Shang-Chi is a foreigner who grew to be and grew to learn how to adapt to be part of the States, to be part American, to have an American experience, and he doesn't have there's no language issues here. There's no, I don't know what the American culture, Jackie Chan stuff like in Rush Hour. He's American, like he's not he hasn't been in the country as long as, say, Katie, who Awkwafina's character, who grew up here, but he's American by this point. He's had 10 years to learn how to be an American and assimilate and be a part of American culture and be part of Western culture. That's different than a Jackie Chan film or a Jet Li movie where, Jackie Chan's character from Rush Hour travels to LA, teams up with Chris Tucker, and learns about American culture in a day, and sings war with him, etc. And I'm not dogging too much on the cut Rush Hour movies. I have a fondness for those, but also that's not this movie. And there is a difference between that and that. So for me, the purpose of Shang-Chi was to try to explore the concept of an Asian American who grew up, an Asian American story who has these cultural ties to where they were born and raised, and that's a different experience. And that's an experience that I don't think a lot of mainstream American audiences even really understands,
No, yeah. No, I agree. You're right, and that's a great point to bring up about it, because a lot of times with those films, you're right, it is an outsider coming in. And so with like Shang-Chi, like you said, we get somebody who is, again, kind of grew up here, came here as a teenager or whatnot, grew up here with his best friend Katie, like Awkwafina or whatnot. They've been in each other's lives or whatnot. And as we talk about the film, when we meet them in the beginning, we meet them as they're like valets. Like that's all they're pretty much doing with their life and everything like that. They're about to dinner with their friend who's like responsible and all these things like that. She's like about to have a family. She's like a successful businesswoman. She's doing all this dope stuff. And she looks at theirs like, you're a couple of bums. Like literally just a couple of bums. Like you're a disgrace to the race. Like I'm not calling you that, but I'm totally thinking that. And she goes on to talk about how like Awkwafina is like a Stanford grad or something along those lines. How Shang literally speaks like 3 languages and everything like that. It talks about how they need to do more in their lives. It's kind of like the whole point of the film, and that's their arc, is that they realize they kind of need to do more, that they're not meeting their full potential.
Right.
I gotta be real though. So when as the movie starts off, and Justin, I'll let me hear your thoughts on this. Like when it starts off, we meet these characters. I was a little bit disappointed by that. Because the thing about this was the reason why I love that arc about you need to meet your full potential. You're not doing enough. Like you need to step up. But the thing about this, I didn't like again like where's like what they were basing the potential on. It's like Katie's this like Stanford grad who's like super smart. Shang speaks like 18 different languages, super smart or whatever. For me, I'm looking like I kind of feel like that's buying into the stereotype a little bit, because a lot of times with like films that we see Asian Americans represented in media, it's like the quote unquote smart person. But I'm like, yeah, but you can be more than that though. And I kind of felt like put them in a box. But like, how do you feel about that? Because that move right there, I didn't enjoy as much. What do you think?
That didn't bother me personally. For me, it's for me that pointing out was relatable to me. As someone would, being told, even if you have a higher education, that you weren't fulfilling what you're supposed to be doing, even with that higher education or your higher knowledge, but you're feeling like you still don't know where your place is. I related to that pretty hard. Like I've gone, I think there is there is a stereotype of especially with Asian American folks, that we're the the good students, we're the ones who do really well, and we end up being successful because we're the good smart kids who etc. Right. And it's been kind of a struggle to realize that like we all, especially my age group, felt like that was part of what we were supposed to be doing, and then that pressure really kind of buckled us under. So for me, I've been told plenty of times like, oh, well, how come you're not, you did this and that, and how come you're not doing this and that? And I felt the ooh, that hit hard, when I saw that scene. For me, that's not my everyone's experience, but that felt something I connected to. So for me, it didn't bother me. That was me.
For me, I think the problem with it is that I think you can do that, but you don't need those qualifiers and everything like that. Katie doesn't need to actually be intelligent. She needs to be somebody like Katie, you're really creative. You got all the stuff going for you. Like maybe she's an artist, or maybe she has something else going for her, but you're just not meeting your potential. That's what I would like to see more. Because again, I'm just feeling, because again, like you said, I'm thinking about that one stereotype. But that's just me though. Like again, that was me saying that just felt like a weird turn in a way. Where you're trying to like take down some stuff. But yeah, but I hear you though. But again, the concept of like you're not living up to your potential, that's a universal story that I feel like we all feel at some point. Like even every artist feels that like I'm not living up to my potential. So that's a question to ask yourselves. Yeah. Okay, so then after that, we continue on to the movie, and then we get to the infamous bus scene.
Well, before we get to the bus scene, I want to go to a more important, for me, one of the things I feel is really important. It's the scene where Sean, at this point, Sean is picking up Katie at her house, at her home, in her apartment in San Francisco. And to me, this is an important scene. Now, here's the thing. It's the scene where we meet Katie's mom, we meet Katie's like family life, her grandma, etc. And this scene is supposed to represent like, your classic kind of like this is the Asian American family household. This is the scene where it's like, it's not everyone's culture, it's not my culture, but I recognize shit. I'm like, oh, I've had these talks. Oh, I have that relative, and to me, that's the scene where I felt like it was very important to me. And little details like, seeing like Sean take his shoes off before he gets into the apartment. And here's the thing. I remember talking about that with a friend after we saw the film. And, we're talking about like, that's a scene I've seen in a lot of like independent Asian American films. A lot of independent Asian American films do variations of the scene. And so hilariously, understandably, my friend initially thought was like, he took that as a negative. He was like, I've seen this scene. I've seen this scene done so many times. And then I had to remind him like, right, in independent films that no one's watched but us. This isn't for us in that regard. That scene is for us to a certain degree because we can recognize it. But that scene is to inform everyone else. Yeah. That's the Asian American household. That's the Asian American experience, Yeah. Side note, hey Stacy, get ready for that first pool. So there is a hilarious connection between Shang Chi and a film we covered that hilariously I would argue was kind of DC's first attempt at doing Shang Chi. Can we see the grandma from Wendy Wu? Yeah, you see like this, yeah. You certainly are a friend. Hey, Chris, Woo! Keith, thank you guys. Is my granddaughter warrior? Yeah. So, is my granddaughter warrior? This is a clip. This is a still from Wendy Wu, Homecoming Warrior, and this is actress Sai Chen, legendary actress, and she's also in Shang-Chi. You can take the photo away now. Thank you.
Get that money.
But also, like, hilariously, she's I just found that hilarious because both films surprisingly share a lot of weird similarities in the factor of a person, an Asian American character who grew up here realizing their full potential as a martial arts mythical hero. And I think about that episode a lot because of our amazing guest CB Lee. And one of the things who I just saw CB, I don't know if you're probably not watching it. CB is currently, I just saw she's in the hospital at the moment.
Yeah, I just saw, she hurt her leg.
Poor, I'm so sorry. She's also excuse me, she's also a mom. She gave birth to her child before
also congratulations to CB on birth of the child. Yeah. Also CB came on with her pregnant and then gave birth a little while later, which is super dope.
So
we had 4 guests on that day.
Yeah, that's right. But speedy recovery CB, I'm so sorry about that, but I bring her up a lot because I remember one of my favorite things about our discussion with her was that she
Mooncakes. No, keep going. Sorry.
it was a little bit of mooncakes, but it's her pointing out that like it's a bunch of writers who clearly did some cursory research on Chinese American culture, and maybe a couple of actual Asian writers who maybe did a draft or two, but it's so very clearly, obviously, a movie that wasn't like written and created with Asian creatives behind it, and it's very interesting to see Sai Chin in Shang Chi because it's almost a 180 of Wendy Wu. It's an entirely top to bottom like filled to the brim with Asian creatives, you know. So hilariously, I just found that hilarious that she's here, and I really love her scene with the grandma. A lot of Filipino, like, you know, like she reminds me of some of my aunts, and in the scene, and even if it's not specific the same kind of spirituality, there is some elements where I'm like, I see you, you know. In the words of Appa from Kim's Convenience, I see you, and you know. So I do like that.
No, I agree. The dope thing about it too is it just shows a generational household, which we see just in multiple cultures. Because, like you said, that is like in a way you're doing that for two reasons. Like when you show the shoes, you're doing one as a reflection of the culture, but two, you're doing to teach other people about the culture. So when you run into it later on, you're not just like taken aback by it. When you go in somebody's house and it's like, oh, can you take your shoes off? You're not like, wait, what? My Jordans? It's like, no, set them by the door. Don't worry, nobody will steal them. And the cool thing about this is that when you see that generation household, that speaks to like multiple like ethnic groups as well, because multiple ethnic groups have that in their culture as well. Latinx families have that a lot, where they have multi-generational households where it's like you don't move out right away, you stay home, you help out and everything like that. Your grandparents are still there. It's a family unit, it keeps it tight. So it's dope to see that representation there.
Absolutely. And yeah, just to me, here's the thing: like, there's a lot of talk about like you know, like Shang-Chi being a proper being a representation of Asian American experience, Asian American superheroes. And here's the thing: it's not Shang who's showing that representation. It's Katie. Katie is the Asian American experience. Katie was born here. Katie doesn't know the language, maybe a little. She understands enough, but also is so Americanized that she feels uncomfortable when she's not when she's in a foreign land that technically should have been where her family came from. That's the Asian American experience. That's the actual Asian American. Shang is not that character. He's a version. He's a part of it. He's a version of it. You know, like I said, there are plenty of stories. Especially I have friends who moved from their home country as teenagers, went here, and then 10 years later, are fully Americanized and etc. But had a hard time shaking off their culture that they grew up in. You know, whether they were 13 or 14. And they went to live here, and I met them in their mid-20s or what have you. You know, their parents didn't try to have them assassinate someone when they got here, but you know, he got the gist. And yeah, Fulcrum points out like there are two different takes on the Asian American experience. Exactly. So it's not just one; you get both. You know, in this film, to me, Katie's story is the one that I recognize as like, oh, that's mine. That's the one I recognize. That's my story. I grew up here, you know, etc.
And think about this, it's difficult to put the Asian American experience or any ethnic group's experience into like one film, to be honest with you, because the Asian American experience is a plethora of different groups and whatnot. Because you can't put it all to one melting pot, because you have Korean, Filipino, Japanese, Chinese, Hmong, so many different experiences that you can't do that. And that's the reason why it's so much important when we talk about like representation. You got to take your time and do multiple films. That's the reason why, like we talked about when we did our review of Raya and the Last Dragon, that movie was so important because that focused on the Southeast Asian. Right. So the thing is, so again, you're exploring all those cultures. And you did a damn good job, because guess what? You can focus in on that. Right. You focus in those foods, those scenarios, different things like that.
Right.
So that's the reason why we talk about on the show all the time. You got to keep telling stories, because you can't expect to get everyone to one net with one film.
Of course.
You shouldn't. You just got to keep telling more stories.
100%. Yeah. So let's go into that, like you said, Johnny, infamous bus sequence. Stacy, go ahead and show that one photo of Sean with his two opponents, like kind of holding him back for a sec. You know? Cool. And Comics Banter Not Speak Out, but the Bao short was another great take of an Asian American. Absolutely. And we did cover Bao on our show with JPG as our amazing guest on that one. So do check out our YouTube channel to see that one. Johnny, we will talk more about like representation and etc. But can we just, what do you think of this fight scene?
Gosh, damn, was this not needed? This was a chef's creme de la creme. Oh my gosh, it was amazing. Because here's the thing: the whole time we're looking at Shang, we were like, man, this dude can fight. This is Shang Chi. He like a master kung fu. Like he needed to bust out some of this kung fu. So we've been waiting for it. Honestly, that bust scene was amazing because again, it was pretty much the precursor to show you that this dude can hold his own in any situation. And when Shang started going to work, started whooping on everybody, it was magnificent. And also gave me a little bit of like action movie vibes as well. Brought in a little bit of that speed scenario where the bus goes out of control. They throw Katie in the Sandra Bullock role where she has to drive the bus and like save the day and everything like that. And so it's pretty dope because it was cool about this movie is though that like as we talk about this bus scene, again, action scene's amazing. Katie ain't never a damsel, which is very important for this film. Katie is an equal partner in this journey, which is super important. Because think about this, it can be so easy to turn her into like the damsel, the love interest, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, that's my road dog. She's a part of this journey as well. And so that was cool to see as well. And I also got this good comment as well is that since we're talking about Katie and everything like that, I also love the fact that they kept that a platonic relationship throughout this whole thing. There was no love interest or anything like that because a lot of times when you do films, you feel like you got to force in a man-woman relationship. It was like, nah, homie, can I just have a friend that's a girl? You got my back? It's like, go look out for me, everything like that. I would truly like to think that if I was in a kung fu situation on a bus and I need a homie to get the bus and drive the bus, I can count on producer Stacy to get my back. And producer Stacy would help drive the bus to safety. So I think about this, though, again, men and women could have, boom, boom, platonic relationships. And that was really dope to see.
Thank you so much for bringing that up. That is absolutely one of my favorite things about this film. It's the fact that Shang and Katie are 100% platonic best friends. And it is so needed in mainstream media to start showing that is okay. That is normal. That is normal. The amount of damage I would argue to show that the air quote men and women can't be friends crap because of movies. I'm glad that this movie is literally showing that no, of course and here's the funny thing. Some people still think they're kind of a romantic thing, even by the end of it. No, they're just really close. They're best friends who went through a lot, but they're best friends. And I'm so glad you mentioned that because I feel like that's a representation in and of itself to show like this is a absolutely not only normal, a regular experience of relationship that a lot of people have and is never shown in media. Thank you, Alyssa.
Thank you, Alyssa.
Oh wait,
Alyssa.
Is it wait, Books and Bubba, Alyssa? Thanks, Alyssa.
Good woman, Alyssa. Thank you.
I bumped into Alyssa the day I was gonna watch the film, by the way. She remembers. So but no, this is exactly one of the things I love. And Johnny, I so love that. Yeah, it's very obvious. You're totally correct. It's very obviously the speed sequence, but I love that this is East meets West, man. It's a speed action sequence with a Jackie Chan fight scene in it.
Yep, and it works. And it works. What I also love about it as well is you got diverse villains as well. You got white, black, Latino, a little bit of everybody mixed into the villain base as well. So that way, again, it's not just saying, okay, just one type of film. It's got a diverse thing going on. So I love that aspect as well, with the villains being like all diverse henchmen and everything.
Absolutely. Also really gotta say, like I one things I want to point out that makes Shang-Chi, and I said this like on a video I posted a way long time ago on TikTok and Instagram. Like I did a whole little mini video about it, but I want to emphasize it because we're here in the bus fight scene. And Stacy, do you mind putting up this other photo that's of Shang-Chi in the bus fight sequence real quick while I talk about this bit? It's this other shot of him. It's him in the bus. There's like the tunnel behind him. It's like the yellow poles are surrounding him. Thank you so much, Stacy. Is that this sequence shows that not only is Shang-Chi a martial arts hero, he's also a martial arts superhero. And there is a distinction. Not saying that a martial arts hero in other movies aren't a superhero one way or another, but to me, what makes it a superhero sequence is him saving innocent people.
Yes.
To get out of the way.
Yes.
move.
Yes. Save more people than Superman and Justice League.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Stacy, you can take the photo away, please. Thank you, producer Stacy.
Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you.
And
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I was saying that's low key the reason why, like, again, why Marvel movies work is because they make people to hear actual heroes and whatnot. And the dope thing about it is, when Shang is doing all the stuff on the bus, that's the reason why, like, when I was talking about earlier, it's like, I don't want him to have the rings. It's like, damn, you dope as it is. Because as we're coming with time and whatnot, but it's like, we talk about the film as whole. When we open up, we see Shang's mom, and we see that when her dad has the rings, he tries to use the rings on her. She's like, ha, 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 ha. I don't need these rings. I can smack you around without them. And that's what I was hoping was going to be Shang's journey, is that he doesn't need the rings. He's just good enough on his own. So again, we still got it here, and we still hopefully get it later on in the sequels and everything like that. But seeing Shang here do all this work without, again, superpowers or anything like that, again, puts him on that top tier level, like you said.
Absolutely.
Martial arts superhero.
Absolutely. Now we kind of we go from the sequence, we kind of jump ahead to where basically Shang is now and Katie are now in Macau. Because Shang thinks, is suspecting that his sister is in danger, and to put it simply, she's fine. Can we see a shot? Can we see that one shot, producer Stacy, of his sister Xialing?
Wait, Justin, is that some double wordplay right there while you say she's fine? Is that some double wordplay, Justin? That's a little bit double. Oh, okay, Justin. Okay, Quizon, shoot your shot. Shoot your shot, Quizon. Shoot your shot.
But also she's a boss. Xialing is a boss, quite literally in this film. She's
a final boss.
Quite literally a final boss, as we see that she actually runs an underground fight tournament in Macau. So here's the thing, though, Johnny, if I can be honest, I am of two minds of this. One, first I want to give shout out to the actress Munger, who plays Xialing. She's fantastic. She's great. This is her first movie. This is her first acting thing. She hasn't acted really on screen or television movies before. This is her first anything, and she nailed it.
She killed it.
And I love the character, but I do feel like it's a kind of a weird sheet to kind of just make her girl boss as her characterization. Specifically after Falcon and Winter Soldier, where, spoiler alert, we kind of did the same thing there with Sharon. And it's one of those things where I'm like, you can either do one or the other, and I almost feel like it's like a cheat code characterization to say that Xialing also is a girl boss. Though I feel like her motivation obviously makes way more sense than Sharon's motivation in doing so. But I do kind of feel it's a little bit of an underwritten kind of quick hand to say she's badass and cool to have her be a girl boss. But oh, that's me.
I would say when it comes to this, so when it comes to her in the scene, first off, we get to the scene. The scene's really dope because who do we see there? Wong. Wong is there. They're fighting the Abomination, which is like really dope and everything.
Yeah.
I will say I was a little bit disappointed because before Shang had got to his sister, I would have wished he could have had a couple more fight scenes right there. Because again, as I talked about my Captain America comic, see him go against somebody with superpowers, and it's like, you don't need superpowers to take somebody down. That would have been dope to see it again, martial arts superhero to kind of do. So
I bet you there was a draft where Sean had at least one other opponent before he had to fight Xialing.
Exactly.
That they had to cut it out. That's because it's ripe, right? That sequence is ripe for him to at least fight some other guys.
Exactly. You see all the superpower people around there. I'm like, that feels like to me a missed opportunity. That would have been dope to see.
I agree with
you. Especially after Captain America, Winter Soldier. Falcon and Winter Soldier. Have him fight one of those super soldier wrestler dudes or whatever. Because then you would get to this whole thing. It's like, wait, can Shang-Chi beat Cap? Yes, he could. So again, that would have been dope. Now, when you get to that, as for the girl boss, I agree with you when I hear what you're saying. Because for me, I feel her character was underwritten because I was like, we didn't get enough backstory with her. It was all just like verbally explained. It was like, you went away, then I did this, and I became all this. It was like, real? Didn't you live in a hole in the wall for 13 years? And they're like, how? Like what? And so that was my one critique of it, is that I would have liked a little bit more backstory for her about how she got to that level. Because for her to get to that level, it has to be a lot of pain, a lot of strife. And so we go more into back there, because I agree with you. It was just kind of forced into play there.
I agree. I totally agree.
And I think the reason why she gets kind of forced into play is because we look at this movie, you low key have like a lot of people whose stories you're looking at here. You got Strong, who's our star, who you're focusing on him. You got Aquafina, as you point out, who's related to the Asian American audience. But then you got the big star, who's doing a lot of hard heavy lifting in this film, and that's Strong's dad.
Yes. Yes. Who I shockingly did. Oh, yes, I do. Please, Stacy, if you could show us a shot of that shot of Shang-Chi's father, Wenwu, in that amazing, in one of many amazing suits that he wears in the movie. Oh, you think I'm simping on Xiaoling? Incorrect, sir. I am hardcore simping on Tony Leung as Wenwu. Look at that suit. One of many suits I wish I owned in real life that Wenwu owns in this dang movie. Also, can I say the detail of the sequence? I know we're going to get into it a little bit more, but the detail of the sequence of he takes his son to this sequence that leads into probably one of the most traumatic things that Shang has to go through, and he dresses him for the occasion.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god. Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, I want it. Yeah, let's go. Let's talk about Tony Leung as Wenwu.
So I want to bring in the Black Panther perspective real quick. So the thing about Black Panther is the reason why when I saw that movie, I cried 3 times. Justin, how many times you cried during Shang-Chi?
Yeah, around that time. Around that many. Yeah.
Okay.
Around that many, yeah.
It's because when you see a film represent your culture and the things that your culture goes through, it touches on a deep level.
Right.
Like, again, the Killmonger had a lot of those scenes as African-American representation in that film. Like, when he goes to see his, like, father in limbo, he's like, no tears for me. He's like, they don't share tears where I come from. It's like, oh, because he's from the hood. Oh, shit, goddamn. Or then at the end, when he says that classic line, it was like, bear me the ocean of my ancestors who knew death was better than imprisonment. Like, oh, goddamn. Oh, shit, slavery. Shit. It's like those lines get you to the point at the end where that little kid comes up and sees Black Panther. It's like, who are you? And then that music, he's like, that's Black Panther. That's the hero right there. It hits our cultural spots because Black Panther talk about things in our community, things that issues our community that we've talked about for years that we don't see on a mass media all the time, that we don't see in a blockbuster film or a tentpole film. So that's the reason why I touched. And so with Shang-Chi, I saw a lot of those elements here. Like you talk about the shoe element, but I want to bring up 2. One, there was Shang, and then 2 relates to his dad. One was when he's on the plane. Now, this is a scene that's on the plane, but this is an important scene because Shang explains how to pronounce his name correctly.
Right.
And this is big because a lot of times, again, when people come to this country, it's not just Asian American folks, it's African folks, it's a lot of us. Like Jewish people had to do this too. They came over and they changed their names to make it easier for other people to pronounce. Immigrants had to come to this country and change their names easier for other people to pronounce. And so it was that powering moment right there where he's like, where Shang is like, no, my name's pronounced. She's like, Shang-Chi? No, Shang-Chi. He tells her I pronounce his name correctly, and then that's all it is one from the film forward. And it's kind of an important moment because when we meet people from other cultures, you should take the time out if you respect that person to know how to pronounce their name correctly.
Correct.
Like, not everybody in this life is going to name Billy, Bob, Johnny, Justin. You're going to run into people with unique and special names. Pay them that respect to like learn how to pronounce their names. We see that in the Black community all the times. I've had students named Lakeisha, Akila, Tila. The thing about this is that when they come to me, I'm like, I'm going to get your name wrong at first. But if I do it again, you call me out, I'm going to get it right out of respect for you and who you are. So I love that scene. Second thing I love, with his father, was that Mandarin Orange scene.
I love that scene.
Because I feel like that scene where he talks about like, they named him the Mandarin, it's like, they named him after a food we eat. Like, come on. It just kind of showed the ignorance right there of how Asian Americans were represented in cinema throughout all this time and everything like that. And that felt like a larger, like that one little example felt like a larger critique of like American cinema and like American literature and like all these different things about Asian American representation in all of them. It's like you took these stereotypes and you kept portraying us these things. You heard a cool word, but you didn't know what the effing word meant. You didn't bother to go back and do your gosh dang research. And so instead, you put these like stereotypes on screen, and then you like cause these negative things to happen to us over time. And so, Carla, what's that name? Was that one evil film? It was one of the John Hughes movies. Was it Sweet 16?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Long Duck Dong.
Yeah, exactly. And
16
16 Candles.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's a terrible character, but you know how many people, Asian American friends I met over the years, who's like they got called that for like years, like Long Duck Dong and all the stuff they had to deal with. Or you think about Breakfast at Tiffany's, and we had what you call it, like a yellow face and everything like that.
Mickey Rooney, yeah.
Exactly. So I felt like that Mandarin Orange scene was more of a critique of cinema, literature, and like so much entertainment and Asian American representation through all these things. So what are your thoughts?
I agree. To go jump back to the airplane scene, it's a great. You're great. You're pointing out 100% correct. It's to teach the audience that's his name, and like you said, respect his name. That is his actual name. But it's also showing that Katie, who is an American born and raised Asian, didn't know how to say it either, and it shows that like. Just because we're of that nationality, that race, doesn't mean it's inherent. Doesn't mean we instantly get it. So it's showing that as well.
I agree with you. I would also say it just shows you're going to get it wrong the first time, and that's okay. Just keep trying. Keep trying.
It's okay. But the dinner scene might be one of my favorite Marvel scenes. Period. You know, and part of that is correct. You're correct. It's the discussion of the name. But it's built on it's also built on another thing that's involving Katie, where, you know, Wenwu first, I love that Wenwu refers to her as American.
Mm-hmm.
Well, again, that's the experience. This goes back from Crazy Rich Asians, you know, where the main character's mom goes, you may look like them, you may talk like them, but you will never be them. You're still American to them. That is so 100% true.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the last time I went to the Philippines, I was 9 years old. And I always remember this. I was in a store with my mom. I stood there by myself. I didn't say anything. I didn't speak anything. I didn't talk to anyone. But there was a clerk there who looked at me and instantly said, "Hoy, boy, American?" He knew. Like that. He knew. I didn't do anything. I didn't say anything. Didn't speak. Nothing. He knew.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I was Filipino, I'm a foreigner still.
Yeah.
You know, I'm American, not a Filipino kid, not a Filipino ethnic kid, not a, etc. I'm American to that man. Mm-hmm. And so when Wenwu calls her out like that, yo, American. And I love that Sean was like, her name's Katie. It also bleeds into, what's your Chinese name? He doesn't care about the American name. What's your Chinese name? And she gives him his Chinese name. And that leads into that great speech about names are secret. Tony Leung, who plays Wenwu, one of my favorite actors, period. Absolutely one of my favorite actors, period. And when he got cast as Shang Chi's father, I think I fainted at Comic-Con. I was in line for something, and all of a sudden I woke up and, where am I? Because I didn't believe they got him, but they got him. And he's so incredible in this film. You want to talk about something that the scene that you asked me, how many times I cried? I'll tell you one of them. It's the montage sequence that showed the life that Wenwu and Lee had when they left, when they got married, when they were raising their children. And first, this stuff I thought was great because it reminded me of Tony Leung's other work with like other Hong Kong films I've seen him in, other dramatic films I've seen him in, So in my brain, I was kind of reinserting those movies in my head when I'm seeing him do these scenes played out in a Marvel movie. Mm-hmm. And you want to know the moment I freaking like started really crying? It's when they were playing DDR.
Yeah, I know. That was my yeah. Yeah.
As a family, it's like all that the martial arts stuff they were doing as a family, that was lovely, but no, it was fucking DDR. It was playing goddamn DDR that just hit me in the goddamn heart, and that was what's storytelling, I thought, but also showcases like what he was like at the end. This is the life Wenwu wanted. He wanted to be a good father. He wanted to be a good husband. But his past attacked him. And this is why he thinks he doesn't deserve having any of those things. Mm-hmm. And he went the easy route and went vengeance, Yeah.
And it was dope is that like I give Marvel credits because over the years they've evolved to have these like complex villains, almost anime-esque, if you will.
Mm,
Because the reason why I've always been like, as people know here, I'm a comic book and manga writer, and the reason why
yes.
I've always liked anime and manga is because they've always created villains that are balanced in a way. It's like you're not just evil for not evil's sake. There's something that made you evil. There was a choice made. There was something done to you. There was something that happened to you and that led you on this road. Because guess what? Life isn't fair, and we all don't get like the bad leads us to being good all the time. So there's always some balance there. And so the thing about it is though is that when we get to these Marvel films of late, we look at characters like Killmonger and Wenwu, and we see these characters who are in a way good people that bad and unfair things happen to that led them
Yeah.
down this path. And it leads to amazing villains. Because I agree with you. That scene with DDR, him just trying to like be with the love of his life. It was just like, damn, because like you understand where this villain is coming from, and you in a way you feel sympathy for him. Because even towards when the beginning when he's just a conqueror, it's like, you know what? I'm not that mad at you for conquering because like, that's what people did. We've heard of warlords and people, Alexander the Great, people like taking over the world all the time back in the time period. So being conquering things was just kind of a way of the world. But
Yeah.
as you get later on in life with your organization, you get a wife, you retire, you do all these things. But then when your wife, the love of life is taken away from you, as you said, you become cold, you become hard. And
Mhm.
why you start doing this with your son? In a way, you want to make him strong enough so if they come back, he can fight them all.
Right.
And so it's just like, damn, that's kind of deep.
Yeah.
Then furthermore is that when he's going after like to the secret city to release what's behind that wall or whatever, Loki can't be mad at him because it's not he's doing it for greed. He's not doing it for power. Here's his wife's voice.
Hmm.
He wants to save his wife, the
Yeah.
person he pledged his life to. He wants to go and save her. That's why he does this.
Yeah.
So again, in a way, it makes a complex villain in a way he's like you can't be that mad at, and you understand where he's coming from when he does these things.
Right. I want to go to answer something like a comics banner points out my only qualm in the film: Wenwu doesn't have any security for his family home. Hey, can I pull a no card, a no prize for this, please?
Sure.
Did you see the army that came in after them? What's to think they didn't kill the security before they even wandered in?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that, it wasn't just 8 guys. It was like
Oh, that was army. That was
it was an army of dudes.
They dropped out of nowhere like the Foot Clan and TMNT One. They was throwing motherfuckers to windows and shit. That was not a game.
100%.
It was not a game.
Also, side note on that, Lee didn't have her full, potential that she did when she was in Tao Lo,
Mm-hmm.
but she still held it down.
Mm-hmm. 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 She took some damage, but
She took
held
damage.
her on. Held her on.
So that's my no prize. It's like probably killed the security on their way in. Like, did you see how many guys were there?
Yeah, legit. So let's get to the wrap up here. How do you feel about? Because here's the thing. So on one level, I'm praising Marvel because I'm like, y'all doing these villains justice, loving this diverse storytelling, making this money, doing the thing, keep doing it, Marvel, doing the damn thing. I am not enjoying these like last 30 minutes of these films these days.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Because in a way, remember back in the early 2000s where every movie ended up with, there's a big portal in the sky.
Right.
Look at the light, blah, blah, blah. Every Marvel movie's kind of come the same ending where it's like, okay, armies fight, this is going down and whatnot. Like in a way, you take Shang-Chi and Black Panther from side by side, dragons, rhinos. Okay, we see a lot of similarities here. There's a lot of cool stuff happening, but it's just like, that's the only thing that I'm kind of like critical of this film. Yeah. Like, well, not the only thing, but that's one thing where I'm just like, I need y'all to figure out a way to kind of do these third acts a little bit better. Because I get it, you want to sell these toys, you want to sell this merch, but I just need some stronger third acts, a little bit more engaging than always big CGI fight fest and everything like that.
I agree. If I can be a little honest though,
go ahead.
And look, I love Black Panther. It. I love Black Panther. I will definitely say, as much as I'm doing a lot of praising for Shang-Chi and I'm rocking the jacket, Black Panther is ostensibly still a better film. It's the better film between the two, even if not to totally make it a culture Marvel movie versus other culture Marvel movies. That's not the same. That's not what we're doing here.
Not at all. Not at all. Black people win. Keep going, Justin.
That's fine. But oh, Z girl.
What's up, Z girl? What's up, Z girl?
Thank you.
What up, Z girl? Stacy, producer's homie. Good to have you on the team. Welcome.
But
welcome to the squad.
But I feel like, and I love. Look, I'm all for giant rhinos and armor. I'm all for dragons and lions and all that because it's comic books. Who don't like comics? That's why we're here. But I feel that the final fight between Wenwu and Shang-Chi, in comparison to T'Challa versus Killmonger, is a little bit better in Shang-Chi because it's not entirely just CGI suit versus CGI suit, which was the majority of the final fight in Black Panther. You did see Simu and Tony fight each other. Yes, they're surrounded by CGI stuff. I'm not going to say that's not there, but it is definitely them doing the hits and etc. to each other as opposed to
two CGI suits. No, here's the thing. I totally agree with you because that was my critique of Spider-Man Far From Home. Is that when you get to that last 3 minutes of that film, it's just all CGI Spider-Man dodging missiles and everything. And that's the reason why, like, in a way, low-key one of my least favorite Spider-Man films. I low-key put Amazing Spider-Man 2 ahead of it, which is going to be a whole conversation later. But the thing about it is, damn, Andrew Garfield is an amazing Spider-Man. Props to that man. Lord's work.
I don't hate him in those movies.
Not at all. Not at all.
He is not the problem. He is not the problem.
He is not the problem at all.
No, I have other issues.
Movie. Big time.
Issues.
Big time.
Not Andrew Garfield.
It's not. That man, you deserve a third film. Andrew Garfield, we're cheering for you, homie.
Yeah.
But going to this, now I agree with you. But it's all Marvel movies, to be honest with you. Just taking away from it. Like, at this point, like, we haven't talked about it, but I haven't seen Eternals. And it's because I'm just kind of turned off by it. Like, I'm going to see Spider-Man because my last name is literally Parker. I'm low-key required to. Sorry. But the thing about it is, though, is that, like, when it comes to, like, a lot of these Marvel films, like, I'm kind of falling out of love with them because I was like, I need y'all to do some other things. Like, one of my favorite films that come out this year was The Harder They Fall, which is on Netflix right now. Which I'm telling people to go watch that Black Western.
Yes.
It's a fictional story based on real people. That's fire. Soundtrack, fire. Acting, fire. Story, fire. Comedy, gold. Watch it. But this all to say is that part of the reason why I want to see things like that is because it's different. Versus with some of these Marvel films, is like, we know how it's going to go. We're going to get this scene, get this scene, hope we get this stuff, don't villain, blah, blah. Last 30 minutes, CGI sprinkled everywhere.
If I could, I don't want to make this about Eternals because that's not this conversation. But because I've seen Eternals, but I do want to say if when you get around to watching it, I would like to have, we can probably it'll probably be an episode of our show, but when you get around to watching it, do let me know. Cause I do feel like Eternals does something different. And I feel like Eternals is and here's the thing, like not to put too much onto it, but I do want to say, I gotta say that's really cool that we're talking about representation and Asian representation specifically with Shang-Chi. It is really cool that within 2 months of this movie, a film written and directed by Asian American folks with a cast the majority of Asian Americans, that Marvel would release another film 2 months later, directed by a woman of color, another Asian woman, starring not one, not two, 3 people of Asian descent, different parts of Asian descent, and still led by an Asian lead, this time a woman. And it's not about martial arts. It's not about like extreme Asian culture. No, it's a different thing. And I appreciate that within a 2-month span, Disney and Marvel was like, and here's something completely different, but still doing a lot of representation. If it's successful or not, they were willing to take the big swing and try something else. Yeah. I'm not telling you to rush and go see it now. I have my ups and downs with it, but I do think it's worth a watch, and I do think it's worth a discussion at a future later date. But in terms of Shang-Chi, I 100% agree with you. I feel like there is a safety net of third act is this big side CGI thing. And yeah, it's tiring. It gets old. And I would love for them to start like not doing that anymore and to really just start looking at the scripts and the formula and being like, there was a period too where Marvel movies are all doing chase the widget. And they were as guilty about that too. It's like chase this, chase the stone, chase the blah blah blah, and like here it's one more round of like our army versus this army, and then there's a site. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, that is a knock on it for sure.
Because the thing about as we ready to close out, like 2 things come to mind for me is that when you talk about Marvel, is that they've become formulaic in the way that they want to do the jokey movie with some action scenes, crack a quib, blow up something, quack a quib, blow up something. But it's led to like these stories now that are just very like generic. And like the reason why Shang-Chi avoids is because again, you have so many like people of color who are part of this culture behind the camera, making sure everything was done correctly. But you look, for example, like Black Widow, which is extremely lackluster, which again has a lot of problems with it because again, it still feels like the same old formula.
Yeah.
Because when I think about Black Widow, it's like I would want you to slow down because you know the scene that I want to see the most they didn't do in that film. I want to see that scene where they talk about Hawkeye and Black Widow were huddled up in that like bin for like a week or whatever, and they play tic tac toe and they're just trying to survive and became friends. Because that's a dope scene where it's like I don't need to see the whole thing, but give me like 10 minutes of that.
Right.
Let me see those emotional vulnerability. Let me see them act. Let me see them tell a story. Because as much as I criticize Scarlett Johansson, that mofo can act, and that mofo can deliver, and I would love to see something like that.
Agreed.
And as we get ready to close out, I'm so happy for Shang-Chi. I'm most happy to see his representation. But I don't want to give credit to Marvel for this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to give credit to Disney for this.
Mm-hmm.
You know what Loki would kind of give credit to?
Mm.
Ryan Coogler. Because the thing about this is that like because he showed the success of Black Panther and what happens we let people of color tell their story.
Yep.
It was like, you know what? Let other groups tell their stories and watch you make more money. Right. Watch other people show up and watch these doors swing open. Because Ryan Coogler went in his bag and did a damn thing with Black Panther 1. R.I.P. Chadwick. And that whole cast stand up and delivered. So the thing about this was because they did that work there, then we get Shang-Chi. And I want to see a movie based upon the Latinx community. Every American movie. I want to see these movies keep going, keep smoking. Like I want to see a movie with Marvel superheroes in the Philippines. Let's go. Ube all day.
Yep.
So that's where I'm looking forward to see where this goes at some point.
Thank you. And full totally, that's exactly what I'm saying to people. No, 100%. Johnny, you're 100%. You're both correct. in that fashion. You're right. And I think, and to even extend the grace, I'm glad audiences agreed and saw on repeat Black Panther over and over and over again. And then the same thing happened with Shang-Chi. Audiences rewatched it. It's on Disney+ now. Folks are either discovering it now because they didn't want to go to the theaters because of the pandemic, and they're now telling their folks to watch it. Doesn't matter the culture and etc. They're seeing a fun, good movie. A fun enough movie. And with Black Panther, same deal. Folks have been thankfully open-minded to watch these projects, to watch these movies. And all this is it's like it's opening doors, right, Johnny? Like all we're asking is just allow us to open the door, and with some like the director of Shang-Chi, Destin Cretton, is an incredible director. He's been making great movies. Like he did a movie with Michael B. Jordan literally the year before. And so he's a fantastic director who knows how to do drama, and I hope that with the success of Shang-Chi, he was able to do other projects besides Marvel stuff, and I'm hoping this opens the door to allow him to do other projects. Justin Lin, the director of the Fast and Furious movies, has been trying to make a movie that's not a Fast and the Furious movie for ages. He's got all these projects that are Asian American centered stories. Despite him making millions and millions of dollars for Universal for Fast and the Furious, he can't get any of those off the ground because people weren't open to seeing Asians in the leads of a Hollywood film. Well, thankfully, with this success and Crazy Rich Asians success, and hopefully other future films
Minari
down the line, hopefully we'll get that. Lynn will get that. We'll get one of those happening. That's not a Fast and Furious movie,
Big time. All right, so as we get to wrap up, y'all, we're going to go to that point of the show, which we know we're here to do Disney+Diversity, where we rank the movie on our rating system. We use a woke, meaning it's diverse, inclusive, and pushing things forward. Waking, which means it's doing the damn thing, but it has a problem in some areas. Or sleeping shit was like, man, this shit is problematic. You might as well call it the first season of Friends. Okay.
While we're and I'm still getting used to doing this live because we usually do this.
We'll get my rating tips. I'll be back.
Yeah. I'm using my iPad. Fulcrum, Better Luck Tomorrow turns 20 next year. Ooh, I should do that. I should do it. I should do a stream about that. Maybe if Better Luck Tomorrow is on Amazon by next year for the 20th anniversary, maybe I'll do a live commentary track for Better Luck Tomorrow on
That'd
Twitch.
Be dope. Especially for the homie Han. Especially homie Han, that's his origin story.
There you go. One half will. Will Disney Plus Diversity be at Comic-Con Special Edition? This guy will. Sadly, Johnny, you will be attending a different convention though.
This is true. Your boy Johnny P, Johnny Dope Kicks. While I was going to do Comic Con at home, think about it was those that y'all can't do every convention, and sadly enough, another convention hit me up first, and I got accepted to Emerald City. So I'll be at Emerald City the following weekend. So me and Justin are kind of dividing and conquering. So if you're in San Diego, say what's up to Justin when you go to the Lumpia panel. If you're in Emerald City, stop by your boy's table, come buy some Blackfist and Brown Hand, the Black Man's Guide to Getting Pulled Over, Ewoks Are Better Than Hobbits, Broken, or one of my many other books I got out there. So come see your homies while we're at these conventions.
Before we reveal ours, folks, this again, the fun of doing this live now means you can rank it too. So before you say in the comments what do you choose, what do you say Shang-Chi is, woke, waking, or sleep as shit, wait till we do ours, then start blowing up those comments and telling us your answer. While one more thing before we go, I'm gonna plug my Comic-Con appearance. Yes, I'll be at Comic-Con Special Edition in San Diego for Lumpia with a Vengeance. This is actually the last Lumpia event that we're doing for the year. I'm kind of we're there's nothing else going on with us after this, so we're still waiting and hoping to get a feature film distribution and figure out a way for you folks to see the film without a screener, without a film festival. But if you happen to be at the at Comic-Con Special Edition, we will be there November 26th, 6:30 p.m. in room 26AB. We'll be doing a Q&A, as well as showing the whole movie. We are going to show the whole movie at the event. I thank you, producer Stacy, for putting Lumpia.com screening. And then no, it's a different link. It's a different link. So it's a totally different link for an article. I posted that up. That's San Diego Comic-Con blog did a nice write-up about what we got going on that day. We'll be doing giveaways. We'll be doing we have special edition comic books for the event. And then also we'll be doing live signings. So we'll actually be there, get our signature directly from us, buy a comic, buy a print, and we'll be shilling out our books like Johnny will be shilling out his books over at the Emerald City Comic Con. So I also wrote a couple of stories in the comics, so you'll get to check us out, check out my writing there. And Disney in the next year we'll have a whole hall to ourselves. We're gonna manifest, Johnny. Next year Comic-Con will have a hall for Disney+Diversity.
Oh, I'm already accepted Comic-Con 2022. The homie is already accepted, so trust me, we will be there, and we will be having a panel. So make sure you come through. I'll get to meet producer Stacy in person.
Yeah. Okay. Johnny, I'm ready. Are you ready?
Let's do it. So we're gonna show our ratings to the screen, either woke, waking, or sleep as shit. Here we go on 3. 1, 2, 3. Woke. Nice. What'd you draw? You drew the 10 rings right there?
I drew the 10 rings in the middle, right there in the woke part.
I drew the DDR pad.
Oh, Johnny wants to make me cry.
And I'm gonna say, and put the phrase, say my name right. Say my name right. So
Shang-Chi.
Shang-Chi. So obviously we said it was woke for a variety of different reasons. One, the cast is amazing. It's a diverse cast. It has a person of color behind the screen, behind the script. Furthermore, it's advancing progress, because hopefully this leads to more opportunities for Asian American leads. It took one Asian American actor who was more known for doing a television show, put him on the big screen, so hopefully leads to more work for him. So all in all, the work is progressive, it's inclusive, and there's potentially more opportunities for people.
Absolutely, everything that Johnny said, and you know what? I want to say before we truly wrap things up, there was I saw around 10 folks were watching us on this stream. And I want to say thank you for everyone who came down to watch our second Twitch stream. And 7 people followed us during the stream. You guys rock. Thank you so much. We got 7 new followers because of this. That's so cool. And I can't, I can't stress how much, again, like, that support it really means to us. And for me, in terms of Shang-Chi, like what Johnny said, and yeah, even more personal for me. Here's the thing. I've sat through many, many, many independent Asian American films trying to tell our story. And some of them great, some of them are very bad. But the reality is that, like, I've, even with the really great movies, the bummer is realizing no one wants to see them, because they don't, they think it's a story not worth watching. So I have to say, if you want to, the fact of the way is to learn about even a fragment of an Asian American experience, if the only way for you to get warmed up to that is to see it through the lens of a Marvel superhero movie, so be it. And you know what? I'll take it, because that meant that you got to see it, you got to learn a little bit about it, and if we can entertain you at the same time with a really rad fight scene that takes place on a bus while screeching down San Francisco road, more power to it.
For sure.
So, hey Johnny, you good over there?
No. Well, I think that was fun, everybody. I think we gotta go. We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.